You're procrastinating. We all do it. It sucks. So let's see if we can figure out some ways, some strategies to overcome procrastination. So on the screen now, you'll see a range of different common reasons that we procrastinate. And what I'd like you to do is to go ahead and pick one or two or three of those that are resonating with your situation, with your scenario right now. Could be fear of failure. Could be uncertainty about where to begin. Could be feeling overwhelmed by all the different tasks that we have on our plate. Could be doubt in our ability to get the task done. It could be disinterest or boredom in the task itself. It could be a feeling of complacency because the deadline is way down the line. It could be anxiety about the outcome of that task. Now, if you're eager just to go ahead and dive right into the solutions and see if you can overcome that procrastination right now, then I have timestamps for you. So go ahead and use those to jump to the situation, the scenario, the reason that's most resonating with you. But for those of you that are curious about the underlying principles of procrastination, then you might have noticed it in the common reasons. And it's the emotions of procrastination. Because what's happening is oftentimes we're not avoiding the task itself, but we are avoiding the emotion that is associated with that task. We are avoiding the fear. We're avoiding the uncertainty, the overwhelm, the boredom. And this is just common human nature. So don't beat yourself up for procrastination because, as I said, we all do it. And it's just ingrained in us to be much more comfortable with the positive emotions or the neutral emotions, and wherever possible to avoid those uncomfortable emotions. And that's what's happening when we are procrastinating. We're putting off that task because there's an emotion that is associated with it that's making us a little bit uncomfortable, that has that discomfort that we have to fight through. So what we do in this situation, and that's why I had that list there, is to identify the emotions. So take that moment to look inside yourself, bring it from your heart to your head, and say, okay, what are the emotions that are associated with this task? What are the emotions that I'm feeling right now? Because that will help you then push through that procrastination. Let's go ahead, dive into the solutions now, and figure out if we can overcome that procrastination. Fear of failure. You're not going to do that task because you don't know if you're going to succeed, or you don't know if you're going to meet your high standards. Well, my encouragement for you in this situation is just to remind yourself that we got one life. And to ask yourself, if you're a year down the line from now and you look back on this time, would you regret not giving it a go? Feeling uncertainty about where to begin. I recognize that feeling. I've felt that feeling myself. I've procrastinated in exactly that same way. So it's not just you. So what I recommend in this situation, I'm confident that you've already thought of this in different ways, but see if you can figure out that outline, that breakdown of the project or the task, whatever it is, and see if you can take it into as bite-sized different chunks as possible. But as I said, I'm making an assumption that you might have already thought of that. So then the question that I have for you next is, what is one task that you are familiar with, that you feel a little bit easier to get into? And just to go ahead and get started on that, because what happens is that uncertainty starts to play in our head. It starts to build exponentially, and that prevents us from actually diving into the task. And so here, just by choosing one that we're familiar with, just getting started, it can start to build a little bit of momentum on us, and then to see how the different puzzle pieces can fit together. You're overwhelmed with all the different tasks on your plate. I want to start off by saying that that is super valid. And I know how tough that is. And if I could, I'd just give you a big hug because I know it's not an easy situation to be in. But my recommendation, my encouragement for you is to do a couple different things. And assuming that you might have done some of these already. But first off, it's just figuring out 3 things that are most urgent for you to do. Not trying to figure out too many, not trying to make a master plan. It's easy to overthink when we're feeling overwhelmed or just shut down because there's so many different things that we can do and we're trying to figure out the best path to weave through them all. So my encouragement for you is just to figure out 3 things that you consider urgent, and then just to choose one arbitrarily. It doesn't have to be anything drastic or, again, this most specific one. But if it's on that urgent list, then just to go ahead and just start to dive in. Because just by leaning in a little bit, it can then start to gather that momentum, gather a little bit of that movement, and that can help shape that way forward, that path forward. And good luck, because I do know how tough that is. Self-doubt in your ability to get the task done. I want to start off with actually saying that that is a good feeling to have, because let's contrast it for a moment and think, okay, say you were super confident, overconfident maybe, in your ability to get that task done. Then what happens in those situations is oftentimes then you'll miss out things. You'll go in overconfident, not actually knowing things. I know that's not your situation, but bringing back to that self-doubt, it'll actually make you go into this situation, into this task, much more ready, much more aware of what could actually happen so that you're going to do a better job. The next thing I want to say is that confidence is built in small steps. We're not going to become Olympic athletes in one go. It takes a lot of small increments to actually build our muscles in that area. So my question for you is, what can you do a really small step to get started in that task? What is a really small step that you can get started? The last thing I want to just bring to your mind in this situation is just to reflect on, how did you build your confidence in other areas? What did you learn from that situation that you can apply into this one? And good luck. I know that it's not easy to build your confidence, so do get in touch if you do want a little bit of support there. Happy to have that conversation, but just want to say really good luck, because I know how tough that can be. Your disinterested task is boring. Now in this situation, what I'd encourage you to do is just ask yourself, why is this task on your list in the first place? What is this working towards? Just by reigniting a little bit of that fire inside yourself, it can help you lean into that task. Now, the second thing I want to ask you here, is there any way that you can gamify this task? Is there any way you can put it into a block of time and say, okay, I'm going to get 5 of these done in the next hour, and then reward yourself at the end of this? You're feeling complacent because you got a deadline, it's way down the line. And you want to get it done early, but there's just no motivation right now. There's other things that you can prioritize, that you can do, and you procrastinate for later. A common situation. Now, what I recommend in this situation is accountability. To bring in a friend, a family member, a boss, a colleague, a teacher, whoever it might be, because if we put in our own arbitrary deadlines beforehand, we know that they're not real. Deep down, we know that we're just going to put them off because that deadline is actually further down the line. But if we bring in that accountability and we say, okay, I am going to get this part of the task done this week, whatever the timeline is for you, that gives us just so much more weight, so much more. That accountability can help us really stay pinpointed on that. And if you do bring in the accountability partner, establish those standards right at the beginning. Because again, it's very easy for that other person to say, oh, it's further down the line as well. Okay, no big deal. So really put in those standards. What is the consequences of missing those arbitrary deadlines? Now, the second thing I just want to put into your head is, if you think, okay, it's way down the line, I have so much time in between, go ahead and look at your calendar. And if it is empty, fill it up. And if it isn't empty, recognize that fear right now. Recognize that fear that you might miss that deadline, because you do have to fit it all in, and see if that can help you motivate it as well. But I know that situation, and I really endorse that. What a great mindset to have. So just really encouraging you and wishing you a heck ton of good luck as you go forward with that task. You're anxious about the outcome of the task or the conversation, whatever it is in your situation. I want to start off by saying that is super reasonable. I know that anxiety. I know it's tough. I know how tough it is to be uncertain about what could happen as a result of the conversation, the test, the different situation. So what I'd like you to think of here, what I'd like you to ask yourself is, what is that task in service of? Maybe it's for your own mental health, to have that conversation and say it's affecting the relationship in different ways. Maybe it's for the other person's benefit, and by having that conversation, then you're actually allowing them to grow in different ways. And maybe it's for physical health or whatever it is. You go into the physio, you don't know, you have anxiety about the outcome or the doctor or whatever it is. What can happen in these situations is that our anxiety can really start to build within us. It can grow exponentially, take over our mind, take over our thoughts. Once we know the outcome, and I know it might not be a good outcome, it might be one that we're not looking for, but that knowledge of that outcome can actually then give us some practical steps to work forward with. But when we're just in this space of anxiety, then it can start overwhelming us because we don't actually have a path forward. So just encouraging you, to the best of your ability, to think, what is this outcome in service of? And to lean into it to the best of your ability. I know it's tough, but good luck. Now, I hope you found a solution that was relevant for you, but I did just want to say that these are broad strokes for all these different solutions. And I recognize that your situation, your scenario is going to be different. It's going to be unique. It might have 1, 2 of those different flavors, all of those. So just lean into it as best you can. Get in touch with me if you're curious about some of the different ones, and if I can help and narrow it down a little bit for your specific situation, big time, let me know. But really, really, really good luck as you work towards that. I know how tough procrastination can feel and the tension it can create in our shoulders. So just, really good luck as you go forward.